Go ahead. We're not going to make any money in here. I'll look after the hamburger.
Thanks. Don't go away.
Drop this?
Thanks.
Hello and welcome to Book vs. Movie. This is a podcast where we read books that have been adapted into movies and then we try to decide which we like better, the book or the movie. I am Margot P. of ColoniaBook.com and this is my good friend and co-host, Margot D. of Book and Fit Chick.
Hi, everyone.
It's May.
Yep.
Actually, today as we record this, it is Cinco de Mayo, which is a holiday. It's not a huge holiday, but it's a very cool holiday because it's a holiday about an underdog, where the Mexican army defeated the French, I believe, by whom they were greatly outnumbered. And it was a big turning point in that particular war. So it's just celebrating like a particularly memorable battle, but a battle they should not have won.
And
so
we
happy
celebrate,
Cinco de Mayo, everybody.
We celebrate with margaritas.
That's what we do. I mostly stay indoors because I live in San Diego, just minutes from the border, and people come here. All kinds of crazies come here for Cinco de Mayo for some reason. That's the thing that happens. So it's like our St. Patrick's Day. I usually don't go out.
Same.
But anyway, it is a beautiful day. And we are going to get to AAPI month. We've been having a little bit of trouble not in finding films. There are many amazing films. Just want to say off the bat, the problem is that because we committed at the beginning of the pandemic to doing a brand new episode every single week, and we also have lives. We have to choose movies that are based on kind of shorter literary sources. And all of these really great movies that we would love to talk about are really big books.
They're the 400 to 500 range, and that's a little much for us.
It's a little much.
Yeah.
So that's been the struggle. It's not that we can't find amazing movies. There are many, many of them. It's just that we have one for next week, and we'll get to that a little bit later on. Let's say you're new and you're wondering about that. What, literary sources? I thought it was books. No, it's not just books, because we are planning to do a brand new episode every single week. We've expanded our definition of book to mean any literary source whatsoever. It could be a magazine article, could be a play, could be a song, could be, postcard, anything.
Right.
As long as it was written down in some other form first and adapted into a movie, we will consider it. So that means also we're also always looking for ideas. So maybe you're new, you have lots of ideas. We would love to hear them. There's a few places where you can get them to us and to meet other listeners of this podcast and interact with them on the internet.
The best place to go is on Facebook. We do have a basic Facebook page. Be sure to like it. But if you want to join our group, it's a really fun group. You type in Book vs. Movie Podcast Group, and it's just a place where we talk about books and movies. It's really nice for the hangout. We try to get things that are pretty easy to get, either a quick paperback or it's on the Kindle or hopefully on the Libby app. That's always really important. Or the magazine article is pretty easy to get. And then we also need the book to be streaming on one of the major services, So it can't be some rare VHS copy that we have to fight for, on eBay. You can also find us on Twitter, Book versus a Movie, spell it all out. We're also on Instagram, Book versus a Movie, spell them all out. If you are on those social media channels, please follow us there. You can also just send us an old-timey email. It's bookversusmoviepodcast@gmail.com. And if you would like some stickers, please send us an email and we will drop them in the mail for you.
That's right. And if you really, really, really enjoy the show and you would like to help keep us in books and movies, you can also support us on Patreon.
We have about 100 episodes on our Patreon page. We're putting everything up there from 2020 and then previous to that. The older episodes are free, so go check out that page just for funsies if you're just curious about it. But we have a couple of very affordable options. We are working on the yearly option, so you just have to do it once a year and never have to worry about it. We put up our episodes. The most recent one I put up was the Guernsey, I always have to write this down, the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Society. We loved that book. The movie is fantastic.
I think about that book and movie all the time.
It's so great.
It's so good.
It's so good. We also just put up there Shrek and The Talented Mr. Ripley, just to kind of give you an idea. Children's books. We will anything that's been adapted into a movie.
Everything's on the table.
Everything. Like Mona, I would love to talk about Mona for AAPI month. We're just trying to figure out which Polynesian tale it comes from. And then if we could find that, boom, we could do that for you. But those are all the great places. And, you know, if money's tight, we totally understand. Just, you know, if you could tell a friend about the show or review us wherever you get your podcasts or anything like that, or put a sticker on your laptop, go to the coffee shop, you know, and look cool. Go for it.
Now, so all of that was a preamble to say that we are not covering an AAPI.
Right. We will be next week. We've been going back and forth stringently.
But you probably know that. If you've seen the title of the episode, you realize that by now. But we were just saying we are very excited, though, to talk about today's book and movie. This is, I think, our third by Mr. Cain, right?
Yes, it is.
And this is so silly now, you know, after we've been doing this for 8 years now. I'm always surprised. Like, it's always, his books are so much better than I remember. Like, I remember them being good. I remember the stories being good, but the writing, I mean, this book was such a fun read. It's a great book.
It's a novella. It's a quick read. It's like 100 pages. I got it on Audible. It's Stanley Tucci reading it. And this is hard.
Come on.
It's a hard-boiled fiction. It's film noir. It has a femme fatale. It's everything that's yummy about black and white movies from the 1940s. We always do really well with these episodes. And when I watch them, I'm like, of course we do well. This is a fun read, and these are really fun movies to watch. These movie stars are beautiful, but it does start with Mr. Cain, and he's also written Mildred Pierce and Double Indemnity. He did many other screenplays. He lived to be 85. His biggest output was from this time, though. That's what he's really mainly known for. He did write this originally in World War II. It was in a military publication. In 1934 is the original date, and then he also published it then, and then it also became a movie in 1946. He was influenced by a woman who set up her husband to be killed, and she was in the electric chair, Ruth Snyder, and he just loves these stories about femme fatales, women that will get a man to love them so much that they'll kill for them. And he originally got the idea because he would go to this gas station. There was this gorgeous, buxom brunette, and she ran the gas station. And they would just chit-chat with each other. And being a writer, he just kind of imagined, like, well, what's her life really like? And then he came up with this story. So the story originally, it's about a brunette woman, and she's married to a Greek man who's much older than her. And then a man that just kind of like as I don't know, it's the 1930s. He's just sort of wandering around America. He's not really settled. He winds up there one day and he immediately falls in love with her. They fall in lust. I mean, this is a very sexual relationship. This is also a book that got banned, and it's under the banner of banned in Boston. Boston really loved to ban things in the 20th century. In the 19th and 20th century, right up to the 60s, they were banning things. Very Catholic place. You know, the Puritans arrived in New England, and then the Catholics kind of took over. I can't really see why. I think it's a very innocent read myself, but I found it just incredibly, incredibly fascinating. He's such a great writer. The dialogue is just unbelievable. There's the scene where they first have their kiss, and it's Cora, lead Frank, and he bites her lips because he's just so into her. Like, so their relationship is semi-sadomasochistic. I mean, it's kind of like there's pain involved, physical pain involved in their connection because she's married too, and they're not supposed to be together.
Yeah, there's a few. Okay, so a lot of differences from book and movie, and I want to say too about this book, rather about the movie. We have, again, actually, this is true of now the third time with Mr. Cain in an adaptation of his work, that we're talking about a time in American culture where you could get away with so much more stuff in books than you could in movies. Mm-hmm. Movies had a lot of restrictions about language and wardrobe and themes, and it was just really strict compared to literature. So yeah, there's some sort of like S&M stuff going on with her. She asks him to bite her, like, and he like really bites, like,
draws blood,
injured for like days. Yeah. Hits her, it's a weird thing. Another thing that was not in the movie, I don't think, but there's this, he shows up, so the drifter shows up at the roadside diner place. Yeah. Which there's, there were many in those days. There still are a lot in California. And the owner is Greek, mm-hmm. which he's not in the movie. So there's a lot about this owner who's not white, really.
An immigrant.
And an immigrant, but not really considered like completely white at a time where you kind of needed to be. When we get the story of this beautiful young wife, it's basically, typical. Even today, she's from a Midwest town. She was really pretty for where she lived. She won like a beauty contest or something, and she got a trip to Hollywood, and nothing really came of it. There is, in a sort of a weird little conversation that they have, a little allusion that they have to the fact that maybe she didn't succeed because she might be secretly a Mexican.
Because of her dark hair.
Yes.
And her husband has dark hair. And she talks mm-hmm. about how he's swarthy and has olive skin or brown skin. And what are their babies going to look like? And that he stinks. He smells, she's got all these resentments to him because he's not white. And he seems like he's completely in love with her and thinks he hit the jackpot. But for her, she's sort of like you said, she came from the Midwest. She's this corn-fed girl, comes to LA, comes to Hollywood, thinks she's going to be a big star, and she's working at a diner. And then she's like, well, I think I have better ideas for this diner. I could make real money here. And my husband's just too nice and he's too old and he wants me to have babies. And all of a sudden, Frank shows up. And Frank bites her lips when he gets a chance.
She's like, you know what I need? A drifter. Right. A drifter who will bite and hit me the way I want.
What she said?
Okay, lady.
This is 1934. I mean, this is
seriously.
It's after the Depression.
It's very jarring.
Yes. There's the Depression. There had been a prohibition. I mean, Lindbergh and all this stuff, there's going to be pro-America rallies starting in a couple of years. So the tension about immigrants and how somebody's being treated, I mean, it's
not for nothing.
Yes.
I mean, this is the 30s. It's different when we make the movie. It's much later in California history mm-hmm. and in American history. But yeah, you're right. There's a lot anti-immigrant mm-hmm. distrust. No, somebody who was Greek, somebody who was Italian, even probably would not be considered, fully white.
If you spoke with an accent.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Which Nick in the book definitely does. Her name is Cora Papadakis in the book, not Cora Smith. So Frank kind of gets under her skin by suggesting that perhaps she might secretly be a Mexican, which I doubt. But she does seem to, part of her resentment is that being married to this Greek makes her a little less white and mm-hmm. therefore is holding her back.
In life, in everything that she wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Right. And then, so Frank, he's kind of he's just in love with her. He doesn't really have any other things going on. And so they attempt to kill Nick. I mean, the Greek, she keeps calling him the Greek. I mean, that's how he's even reduced to, is just like his nationality. But they try to kill him They don't succeed. He doesn't remember them doing this to him. And I should say, once again, Ruth Snyder, the original story, that woman attempted to kill her husband 6 or 7 times before she succeeded. So it's kind of based on that. But they do eventually, they kill him. They get him drunk and they put him behind a wheel of a car and the car goes over the ledge. But there was somebody already kind of like curious about what's this situation. This Frank guy shows up and all of a sudden Nick gets hurt and there's the electricity goes out and the cat gets electrocuted and there's all kinds of craziness and they seem kind of weird. They just seem a little guilty looking. Maybe there's just...
Yeah, things are not completely adding up. Yeah.
And he sees it. He sees it like, why would you bring this handsome young guy into your place when you have a hot young wife who has no past and has nothing to hold him down? But they have this relationship, and then they get the insurance policy, and they're going to get him killed, and then there's they get picked up. I mean, of course, that they're immediately suspected in this, quote unquote accident. It really does not look like an accident at all, and it's not. Mm-hmm. And but the fact is, they can't. There's not enough there to pin them for the murder of this man. And so they go free. And on top of that, they collect his life insurance to boot. So not only do they get away from scot-free, but they get a lot of money.
A windfall. Yeah. On top of it.
And I should say, previous to that, when Nick was injured but not killed, they whacked him over the head in the shower or something. But he was in the hospital for a few days. So for a few days, they had this little paradise. They were living like a married couple. There was all this freedom to that. They're like, oh my God, our whole lives could just be this if this Nick guy weren't a part
We could just be here together and you could hit me and bite me.
And I'll flip burgers. It's going to be amazing. So that's what they really get the idea, like, we really need to oust him. But then when they do, it gets very complicated. The cops are kind of suspicious. They start fighting with one another. The relationship becomes because it's based on lies and it's based on deceit and it's based on murder.
I mean, who thought that would work?
Yeah.
Wow. How could you think that would work? And yeah, gradually, like it's so interesting. Like, it's so well written because we established that she jumped into marriage with the Greek because he seemed like he had, a future and stability and money to, shower her with gifts, which he did. And so obviously, like, that's something that motivates her on a very deep level, right? But she also has like a lust thing with this drifter.
Right.
And so when they get away with murder, she wants to turn their little roadside diner into like a real moneymaker. And he's like, we should get as far away from this place as we possibly can. And he also did I mention he's a drifter?
Yeah.
He also does not want to be tied down.
Right.
And so, so there's that as well. Like, he doesn't care about money. He does not care, but she really does care. And so, yeah, so it's never going to work out, quite apart from the murder and the violence.
Yeah.
Apparently those are not bonds strong enough to keep it together, to keep the car going down the road. So yeah, they are not trusting each other. And Nick, the sequence is a little bit different in the book than in the movie. Nick takes off with just some random girl.
A lion tamer or cat tamer?
Oh, yes. So I know a little something about this, actually, because just south of Oxnard, in the kind of more what then was a very rural area. I don't know if it was still, it was in like Thousand Oaks area. So here it's called Twin Oaks. There was a place called Jungle Land, and it was sort of a zoo. What it was a holding place for wild animals that were kept for use in Hollywood movies and trained and whatnot.
Oh my God.
But you also the public could go and see, the MGM lion, or, you could go, the chimp from Tarzan.
Oh, these poor animals.
I know.
Because they were drugged out.
I'm sure they must have been.
Oh,
well,
God.
when I was doing my book, one of the gentlemen that I interviewed, his mom got hired to be like a I don't know, like a custodial kind of, I can't remember exactly what her position was, but she got hired for a summer to help out at Jungle Land. And so he spent a childhood summer living in a zoo.
Did he love it?
He loved
Oh, yeah.
it.
See, that would be my dream come true. 9-year-old me would be like, this is amazing.
Oh, he said he talked about it for the rest of his life. Every time he would come back from summer vacation at school, he'd be like, well, it was a fine summer, but not as good as the summer I got to live in a zoo. So Jungle Land, it was this place called Jungle Land. And so in the book, there's this woman, and she calls it something slightly different, but that's what she means. So she's a lion tamer from this place, and she's kind of sick of her life there, and she also has a wandering spirit. And so when this, again, what is the allure of drifters in the 1930s? I don't get it.
They terrify me, but
when this drifter is like, hey, let's go to Mexico. She's like, sure. I just met you. I have a car. Let's go.
And by the way, he has some free time because he left Cora because Cora's going out to see her mom. Her mother just died. So they're taking a break, basically. She's dealing with her grief. And he's hanging out with this woman. But when they get back together,
it's months. It's months and months that they're apart.
But they do get back together. Yeah. And then there's this whole thing like she signs an agreement that Frank is the one they kind of turn on each other. Like he's the one that killed Nick. No, she's the one that did it. And then in the end, they both get off but they get married and she announces she's pregnant
Yes. So the whole time there's this character, I think he's the DA. And he's super smart. He's playing both of them. He's playing a long game with both of them because he knows that what they did, but he can't quite prove it yet. So he's just kind of keeping an eye on them the whole time. And so when they get off, when they get the insurance money, I don't think they kill that guy that's trying to blackmail them. I think they just rough him up and kick him out, right? Mm-hmm. And anyway, so they basically get off scot-free twice. And they're like, let's not press our luck. We need to get married. But they kind of still don't trust each other. And the Cora says, let's go to the beach, sort things out. And so they go to the beach and they swim way out in the water. And I think that's when she tells him she's pregnant.
Right.
Because she can't swim very well. So they swim out so far that she can't get back in without his help.
But he does bring her back in.
He does bring her back in. And then they know they can trust each other. Then she knows that he really loves her and he knows that she really loves him. And good thing we didn't get put away for murdering your first husband. Now I'm sure everything's going to be just peachy keen. And they get on the road and the car crashes and she dies. Spoiler alert. And turns out this whole story has been related to the priest that he's confessing to just before he's about to hang for her murder. In the book, you're left much more than in the movie, because again, there were lots of codes and things in place. Mm-hmm. But in the book, you realize by the time you get to the end, okay, first of all, this is all his version. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how reliable a narrator this guy is. He says he didn't mean to kill her, but he could have meant to kill her. Mm-hmm. It certainly, if he'd done it and gotten away with it, he could have killed her and gotten out of there before the cops came and probably been just fine. You don't know.
Right.
Or maybe not. Maybe he, meant to get caught because he felt guilty, or you don't know. You don't know. But it's all it's amazing because for a minute, as the reader, it's such a roller coaster. First of all, it is steaming and sizzly right from the get-go. As soon as they see each other, you're like, wow. But it's this real roller coaster of oh my God, they're going to kill the husband. Oh, they didn't kill the husband. Oh my gosh, they killed the husband. Oh, they're going to hang. Oh, they're not going to hang. They're going to get off scot-free. Oh, but they don't trust each other. You go on this whole journey up and down and sideways. And it's really a very, very entertaining book.
And it did really well. It was a big bestseller. And then the story then gets adapted. There was a French version, and I think there's an Italian version. What we're talking about today is the 1946 film, which is considered a classic. We'll also probably mention a little bit of the 1981 one because you and I were kids when that movie came out, but that was a huge
I didn't
deal.
see it till
It was like
it's good. It is. It's very good.
The ads were everywhere. The ads were like felt dirty and it felt salacious. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
Okay, so let's play. We'll take a quick break. We'll play the trailer for The Postman Always Rings Twice, and we'll talk about the movie.
There's one thing we could do that would fix everything for us.
What? Pray for something to happen to Nick?
Something like that.
Cora.
Well, you suggested it yourself once, didn't you?
I was only joking.
Were you?
Yes, I was.
Or had you started to think about it a little?
Maybe I said it, but I didn't really mean it.
Well, I say it again now, and I do mean it. Frank, listen to me. I'm not what you think I am. I've made a big mistake in my life, and I've got to be this way just once to fix it.
They hang you for a thing like that.
Oh, but not if you do it right. And you're smart, Frank. You'll think of a way. Plenty of men have.
He never did any harm to me.
But, darling, can't you see how happy you and I would be together here without him?
Waiting a long time for that kiss.
When we get home, Frank, then there'll be kisses. There'll be kisses with dreams in them. Kisses that come from life, not death.
I hope I can wait.
Darling. Frank! Look out!
It's directed by Tay Garnett, screenplays by Harry Rushkin, Niven Bush, and our stars are Lana Turner, who's, sex on ice.
Okay. Seriously. Okay. How old is she? She's
25.
in her early 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's glowing.
Yeah.
Glowing. And honestly, all she had to do was just stand there in that white play suit and we have a hit. That's all she had to do. But it is really quite a performance. She really, the evolution of this woman, for us, the audience, like when you meet her, there's a lot of like childlike innocence there. She's flirting, but she's not. There's none of the sadomasochistic stuff there at all. And she just looks angelic. One of the really cool things about this movie, this movie's just so well made all the way around. I'll get back to this thing we'll talk about the costumes a little bit later on, but let's talk about who else we have.
We have John Garfield is our Frank. He's amazing. He is so perfect for this part because as polished as she is and movie star sexy and like not a hair out of place, perfect nails, perfect figure, and he just looks rough and ready. And
he needs a haircut 8 days ago through this whole movie.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. He's so good. He is that guy.
He is so believable. And it's so sad because just a few years later, he died of a heart attack. He was like 39 when he passed away. And this first scene of them, it's very famous, but she her lipstick tube, falls on the ground and falls to his. And they're like 6 feet apart from one another, and she's in a doorway and he's leaning against a counter. And his move is he holds it in his hands and he's not going to bring it to her. He's going to make her come to him to get it. But that's how we're indicating like these two are attracted to one another. They're already like playing cat and mouse games. They're flirting. They're eyeing each other. And it's fantastic.
And I really love, let's talk about the guy who plays Nick.
It's that Cecil Calloway. Mm-hmm. They make him he's very white. I mean, he's also.
Yeah, no, he's not the slightest bit. There's no ethnicity in this movie whatsoever. Even what cracked me up. Oh, and I have to get a picture. I have to show you. Even when she steps off the train in East LA, everybody white, which even in those days, that was, that was a very diverse neighborhood, even then. And I recently, for work, I was at an event on a property that was that train station, and the building is still there, but it's like condemned and fenced in and like overgrown with weeds. And so I have pictures that I took that day of the train station. So I have to show you with the film still. I'll put it in the Facebook group, the film still and how that station looks today. And the station, it's very little. It's just a little building. It's not even the size of my little house. But the architecture of it has a lot of, whereas like Union Station in downtown LA is very Spanish style. Mm-hmm. This has a lot of Mexican elements in it, because of the neighborhood that it was. And, but not in this movie.
No. She always wears all white, except for there's a couple of scenes.
So that's the thing. Traditionally, as we know, in Hollywood, the baddie wears black and the goodie wears white. And what I love about this movie is she is wearing white. She is only wearing white through the entire thing. And she's it turns out that she was really kind of the baddie the whole time. She's the bad person. But she's wearing white. She looks radiant. Like she's like lit from the inside with neon. This woman is glowing.
She's a movie star. I mean, this is.
Oh, she just can't. Come on.
She's like Julia Roberts kind of shine.
Yes, yeah. Seriously. But by the end, there's a point when she comes back from the funeral, and from the point where she turns and she has a change of character, and she becomes a good person. From then on, she's really wearing black, and she's wearing, it's not the same at all. So, I mean, there's the play suit. There's her uniform at the diner. It's white. She's like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to go take a little dip in the ocean just to kind of calm my nerves. And she comes out in this like amazing swimsuit with the shoulder pads that are like Carol Burnett and Gone with the Wind. They must protrude a good 4 inches out from her natural shoulders on either side. Like,
but she looks
it's
great.
Really something.
Yeah.
She looks amazing.
Yeah.
Her hair. No human has hair that color. But it's just gorgeous. You just cannot take your eyes off of her. But she does, it's the performance that I just cannot believe. Every time I see it, it is so good.
There was a state cop out there and he saw that stepladder.
Oh, but Frank, Nick mustn't come too.
He's got to. If he dies, we're sunk. That cop saw that stepladder. If he dies, they'll know. If he dies, they'll get us. I'll get him out of there. You phone a doctor. Go on.
But suppose he saw me. What's he going to say?
Get on that phone and call a doctor.
Operator, this is Twin Oaks. I want a doctor. Any doctor, quick. There's been an accident. But I don't want an ambulance. I want a doctor.
The way that she is with Nick, which is this very girlish, innocent, but also very kind of motherly and concerned about him, her husband, versus with the drifter, where she sees right through him right away, and she's gonna bank on this horse for some reason. She talks him into murdering her husband, and then when she turns on him in the jail, and you just see this like hate in her face. It's such a good performance.
There's this great scene. There's actually a colorized version. I saw a few clips, which it doesn't work. I mean, this is a movie that really works in black and white.
It's about black and white.
Yeah.
This whole movie is about black and white.
It is.
Beautifully done.
But I love it when he says to her, first they're going to run off together. and they're not taking the car because you steal a man's wife, who cares? You steal a man's car, it's larceny, which is such a 1940s attitude. Like, so they start walking, and she's in all white, like peau de soie pumps and this white outfit, and they're just going to hitchhike.
That scene is hilarious.
Hilarious.
Oh, so we're just going to walk away down that dusty road there. Hold on. Let me get on my tiny, skin-tight little white pencil skirt and my 4-inch white heels. I'll be right back.
And at one point, she knocks into the dirt. And then he picks her up.
The road is not paved.
No. And I'm like, you're wearing this. What are you doing? Like, they give up. I mean, they're going to do it. And then she's like, this is not going to work. Like, we need to like get this together. And so they try to kill him. And then it's very, in the story, I'm a cat lady. There's part of the story where a cat gets electrocuted, and it's
okay.
The cop though.
The cop really likes cats.
Really, like, as upset as I would be, he's just devastated. That's when people get suspicious of them. And then they decide, and Nick is such a nice guy. He's so like, doesn't think anything's wrong. He doesn't suspect anything. He just adores her.
And he loves her.
Yeah.
And he never suspects for one nanosecond in the book or the movie. And I do like that in both versions, when she is, kind of wheedling / sweet talking Frank the Drifter into killing Nick, her husband, Frank is like, this guy has only been good to me. Why would I kill him? Like, it seems like because again, Frank doesn't care about money. Frank doesn't care about property and stability. As far as Frank is concerned, he has like the world on a string. He has this hotsy-totsy that he can see on the side. He's got a sweet job with a nice boss who treats him well and pays him well and gives him a place to live. What's better than that? So I like that I love those scenes in both of the things because it is very much about like, and it's even more moving in the book because Nick is an immigrant. Nick is somebody who society kind of keeps at bay a bit, but Frank really respects him and likes him. And
likes him a lot.
Want to murder him, but okay.
but so how do we do this? What's the most kind way we could do this? And so I think they call it blotto. Is that what Cain says when people get drunk?
I think so.
I think that's what was
something like that. There's some very quaint names for being drunk in this book.
Because it was the last line in Mildred Pierce. I remember, let's get blotto or something like that. But they said maybe the most kind thing to do is we'll fake a car accident and we'll get him really, really drunk. And we'll make it look like he drove the car off the edge. And we got out with our lives. But he was just really, really drunk. And that way it won't hurt him as much. And they take him. And I love these Southern California stories. I just like, and I love it when you tell me stories about Malibu and what it used to be like compared to what it is nowadays, which is very posh and full of celebrities. And
very crowded. Whereas, even in my childhood, it wasn't nearly so crowded as it is today, But there's still, if you take the, the Amtrak, the Pacific Surfliner line, up the coast, you go through areas of around there, inland from Malibu that look exactly like this movie still, even now.
They put him in the car. They all get toasted except for Lana Turner. She's driving, and it's John Garfield and Cecil Kennedy. I love this scene. They're driving through the canyons. He's talking, and then like his voice is echoing, kind of having fun. He's a little buzzed, and he's just singing, and let's sing some songs, and let's, and John Garfield starts to feel bad because he's such a nice guy. What am I doing? But all right, well, this is what we got to do. So this is what we have to do.
Hey, Nick, what happened to your voice? We're going pretty good, huh?
Me. There is a tavern in the town, where my true love I gotta go.
Nick! Hey, Nick! Come on back to the car.
For I must leave you, do not let the parting leave me. Listen. Farewell, for I must leave you, do not let...
Yeah, it's an echo, yeah.
It's an echo.
Come on, let's go back in the car.
It's a wonderful echo.
Yeah, it's a swell echo.
It's a wonderful echo. It's the best echo I ever heard. Cora, there's an echo out there. Listen. Which is best, me or the echo?
Oh, the echo can't take your high note, Nick.
So, here, listen.
Sure you can go through with it?
After seeing that, I can go through anything.
All right. Come on, let's get down there. We gotta mess ourselves up so we can prove we've been in the accident, too. Right. Come on.
And they put him in the car, and they put him off into the car so he goes off the mountain. Is it Malibu that he's... Or
I believe
or adjacent?
So. I mean, certainly in the movie, that's what it looks like it is. The place names in the book are a little bit vague. It's all that general area of Santa Barbara to the border.
Right.
So yeah, and there are a lot of hills and canyons and ravines. I live on one, and yeah, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of places like that where cars would go over the edge at night, especially in those days where there weren't a lot of street lights in that.
Or bumpers or railings.
Nothing like that.
Yeah. He's killed in the accident. The cops are immediately suspicious because it just looks suspicious. How are the two of you okay? And he died. And the
two of you who were acquitted of his attempted murder earlier,
like
you're fine.
Yeah. And she goes to see her mother. And then he does meet a woman who's played by Audrey Totter, who plays Madge in the movie. So and he tries to quit her. There's some point where he does try to quit her and he can't quit her. Like he keeps dreaming about her. So it's once again that physical longing that they have, that passion for one another. That sort of, they give you that a couple of times. But she goes to her mother, she goes to see her mother, wears a white outfit, comes back. She's wearing a total all black because she's in mourning and her mother just passed away. And then she's more like, we got to get serious about things. And this is where we bring in Hume Cronyn as what was his?
He's always so great.
Arthur
Keats. Love Hume Cronyn.
It's fun to see him young because he was always an old man in things when I was growing up and watching him. And then once again, we get Alan Reed. He plays Ezra. He did the Fred Flintstone voice in the Flintstones, but he was also...
And he looks just like Fred
He does look like Fred Flintstone. But they do have a trial. They have the whole thing that's going on. What also used to, because of the Hays Code, is that you could not get away with a crime. So the person had to be punished. And so
the bad person always had to face punishment, which, I mean, they do in the book too. I mean, he's in jail. He's going to hang. He's going to hang.
Get
the gas chamber or something. He's not going to walk out of jail. It is a little different in the movie. He does have a more it's a little more like a redemptive, seeing the light.
He's pretty sanguine.
God.
Yeah. Well,
that whole speech about ringing twice, that's not in the book at all. You never really know in the book, why is it called The Postman Always? You kind of don't know.
Right.
Yeah. But in the movie, we have this whole speech at the end about, God is going to exact his justice and yada, yada. Okay.
So he hears that from the priest. And so he's more sanguine about it. He's sort of like, well, I didn't kill Cora, but I get it because the thing is that, spoiler, they die in the movie. She dies because they go swimming and then they start driving and then they're making out in the front seat of the car. And I'm just like, what are you doing? And then as soon as you think that in your head, he's not even looking at the road, then boom, she goes over. But,
so you, the audience, know, you don't see him have a look of calculation or anything like that. So when she dies that he was really in love with her and that it was never in any question whatsoever that he loved that murderess who was...
She was hot.
She was hot.
They had a lot of passion. That's the end of the story. And that's the end of the movie. And I don't think it was nominated for any Academy Awards or anything.
I think, the two of them, this whole cast is so solid.
It is.
It's so good. Every single person, Hume Cronyn, like when he comes in at a point in the movie where the audience could easily get very tired of like meeting new people at this point. But he's so good. He just seems like a Joe off the street he just seems like he's got this fresh, delivery of the dialogue. But Garfield and Turner,
yeah.
First of all, the chemistry
Is
right off the bat is just
electric.
You can't look away. It's amazing. But both of them are just acting their booties off. They're both, they're such good performances from both of them. Really, really solid and really, really, upping the ante with each other throughout, as the film progresses in a really compelling way. And then you've got Nick, like, who's such a likable, lovable character. Everybody, every single person, Fred Flintstone comes in and you're like, oh, this guy, what's this loser's story?
Yeah.
It's everybody. The cop with the weird obsession with cats. Like, what's that about? So it's so good. But they certainly were Oscar caliber performances. I think this is one of those situations where her sexiness probably worked against her.
It could have been and she was sort of seen like a Twinkie before. Like she was a typical blonde in movies.
Like co-ed, kind of giggly voice.
Yeah, she's very young. She started when she was 16 or 17. So, she put in her years. But John Garfield was from the stage in New York. He was like a whole different, and I think they said that they had like a little bit of a fling, but they decided to just be friends. But they had a good relationship.
I saw a few interviews with Lana Turner, kind of an interesting lady.
Oh, yeah. She has a lot that happens in her life.
A lot of stuff happens.
Stampanano.
A lot of really intense things. But she would always, always, always maintain that she never dated anybody she was working with. Not that she didn't date Hollywood fellas. She did, but none of the ones that she was actually making a picture with. So, yeah, they didn't. But, I think she's such a brilliant actress. I'm so blown away by her skills because I always think of her in either, like you said, these kind of bubbly ingenue kind of roles, which she's great at, of course, or like later on when she's in these like heavy melodramas where they like make her just be so soap opera-y. I mean, I love Imitation of Life.
Yeah. It
might be one of my
too.
favorite movies, but it's so, I love it because it's so kitschy and everything, but it's so melodramatic.
Was she in Peyton Place? What was she in?
I believe she is in Peyton Place.
Yeah, she had so we sort of hinted at it. She was married to a few times, but this guy that was a real thug.
A number of times.
Yeah.
And she had terrible taste in men.
Terrible picker.
Really bad.
Really bad picker.
Not good.
And not good. And what happened was that he was stabbed to death. It was either her or her daughter that did it, and her daughter took the rap. And I've met her daughter before.
Mob ties.
He had mob ties. I worked on her book, the daughter's book.
Oh, wow.
I got to meet her, and she's beautiful like her mom. But they always said she's the one that did it, but that he used to be her mother, and that her career had died off in the 50s. This is like 10 years later. And then it came right back again. Like Margos said, she went on the witness stand defending her daughter's life and gave the performance of her life. And then after that she did. And then she was on Falcon Crest and all these all these other things. But I picked this because I thought, because Karina Longworth's You Must Remember This is doing a whole thing about sex in the movies. And so they did a whole episode about The Postman Always Rings Twice, which came out in 1981. And then there was Body Heat that also came out. And at the time, this is now, there was like this porno chic that happened in the mid 70s.
Yeah.
Which is not.
I got real scuzzy there for a minute.
Oh, yeah. Real scuzzy. Because you couldn't do anything. Like, you couldn't have two characters in a bed together. You couldn't have them tongue kiss. You couldn't. There's lots of things you couldn't do. And then when you could do them.
Like, just put all of them in the bed.
Yeah. Let's just, Bob and Ted and Carol and Alice. Or they just sort of like, now we can tell the story. But this story is super steamy. Now we can make it really steamy. And so they have Jack Nicholson and Jessica Lange and Bob Rafelson directing them. And I said to you, like, I don't know if I said this, but these commercials used to like disturb me when I was a kid because it just looked like these people were beating the hell out of each other.
They were disturbing. And also that movie, unlike this one, And again, it's good.
It's,
don't
it's
get me
fine.
wrong.
I saw it the other
good.
day. It's good.
They're good. They're good performances. I think Jessica Lange, she's always good.
When is she not?
But that version is, for one thing, it's much, just the lighting.
It's grimy.
It's very, very dark and grimy. The whole thing has this very grungy, grimy energy, which it does not have shining, radiant,
right.
angel in white Lana Turner.
A drifter, looking for something.
Tell me something, Nick. Just a question. What would you pay a guy?
$8. Room, board, and you say you like my wife's cooking.
Your wife, huh?
A woman, ready for anything. Two people in love.
It's just us. It was just you and me.
What are you talking about?
I'm tired of what's right and wrong.
You hang people for that, Cora. Don't look back. Don't look back. It's coming.
Oh, God.
You want to be with me, right?
In love. And out of control.
Who are you calling?
Against me? You wouldn't do that to me, would you? You scum, Frank. I knew that when I met you.
Jessica Lange, in the motion picture that Playboy magazine calls hotter than any uncurbed passion since Last Tango in Paris. The Postman Always Rings Twice.
Where you have that contrast of her just being this, she doesn't have a piece of lint.
No.
She doesn't have a
hair out of place.
Who smokes and works in a greasy spoon. Just perfectly white. And she's very, like, you see her frequently, like, washing her white uniforms and ironing them and meticulously hanging them up. So they're just so crisp. In the contrast with this, unkempt drifter guy, like I said, like, he can't even bother to get a haircut. He'll shave, but that's as far as he's going to go. Whereas in the 80s version of this, like, they're both kind of grimy. They're both kind of, you don't get that contrast.
No.
Which is, I think, the fun of adapting this into a movie. So, yeah.
There's I
like this one better.
I like this one much better. I did find an interview, and I'll put a clip in the show, but it's Phil Donahue interviewing Lana Turner, and it's after that movie came out, and Lana Turner did not like this remake. Never saw it.
Oh, no.
Saw the commercials, but she was like not happy.
I'm sure that's all she needed to see.
No, she said,
I can imagine.
Yeah, she just like, this is gross.
No, yeah, ew.
Yeah.
Always Rings Twice. John Garfield. You know what fascinates me about this? Was that an absorbing film? Wow. But the remake was awful.
Oh, don't.
It was awful. I mean, I think he's talking a little too much. He just shut me up here. The remake, Postman Always Rings Twice 2, measured against 1, is to me the embodiment of what happened to the entertainment industry.
Exactly. Because
What I resented so, certainly I had no control over it, was the fact that they took what had become a classic with Garfield and myself and turned it into such pornographic trash.
And mean. It was mean.
It was vicious. Now, in our film, we didn't say the word damn. The closest we came to nudity was a two-piece white bathing suit that I wore, and he wore swim trunks like boxer, not even the little bikinis that the fellas wear now. So, and yet our picture had so much sex coming from the screen just by innuendo and by looks. I mean, I did not see the remake, but I saw enough of the blurbs on TV that made me so sick. And when they told me what they did on the kitchen table, I said, my kitchen table?
Where he's like, I mean, yeah, we'll I think, did you share the trailer in the Facebook group for the Nicholson one?
I'll put it in the show and I'll also put it on there because
even in the trailer,
it's just,
he's like, it's gross.
Yeah. He just looks like he's up to no good from the beginning, and you don't think he cares about her, and she doesn't really care about him. And they and then the man in the movie is actually Greek, or he's ethnic in the 81 version. So I think they were just taking elements that were from the original story and trying to bring them to life. But they were also like, they have all these posters I've seen, artwork of Jessica Lange with her legs spread wide and kind of leaning on things. And then there's a silhouette of Jack Nicholson's head, but he's like staring off in the distance. So they're taking two images, and it's like, ugh. If I were Jessica Lange's person, a PR person or manager, I'd be like, ugh. We're going to have approval on artwork from now on. But they really sold it, because this is just after Tootsie. And this is just after the King Kong movie. Like her career was kind of, and then she was doing a bunch of like really gritty stuff. And this was like the first one. I mean, I think, like you said, she's always great. Jack Nicholson. I like Jack Nicholson. I think.
Sure.
But it's an ugly little movie. It just looks like it's not going to be a great time.
No. And I can imagine Lana Turner being like, are you kidding me? Do you know she's like, did you know I couldn't even like take a sip of coffee on that set?
Oh no. She said you couldn't say damn. You couldn't do this. You couldn't do that. So we had to make it up. We were acting. And that's what like comes across. And normally when people complain about stuff like that, I'm like, yeah. But in her case, absolutely. But I think John Garfield, I think really deserves a lot of credit, because he's so real. Good. He's so grounded in what he's doing. It's so believable.
He is that guy. He is totally that guy.
And every man that kind of...
I mean, just when you read that book and he just shows up on the screen, you're like, oh, there he is. It's great.
They almost hired Gregory Peck. And I'm like...
I could sort of see that.
Sort of see it.
But Garfield, I mean, the two of them, that chemistry that they had is just amazing. And just brilliant.
And she is just, like I said, sex on ice. I mean, when she walks on that screen and her little halter top and her shorts and her turban, and she looks...
A turban.
I mean...
Just chilling in my turban.
Chilling in Bakersfield in my turban, just wherever she is. But it's just really fantastic. It's tough to pick between book and movie.
I know. The book is really
good.
Really
and
good.
I recommend Stanley Tucci's reading if you're looking for something, when you're traveling or whatever. But and the book is on the Libby app. It's a real quick read, and you can get it easily.
Oh, yeah. It's very easy to get your hands on for free. I'm going to just lean towards the movie. Although I loved that book. I really loved the book. It's such an entertaining book, and it's so well written. And for all of that, and we talked about this recently. There was another book that we did recently where it was kind of a short book, but just a ton of stuff happens.
What's going on?
And yet you don't feel like it's just being crammed in, and you're not able to keep up, or you're getting tired of this and that new stuff being introduced. And that never happens with this book at all. It is always entertaining and just thrilling. It is a page turner, as they say. But I will give the edge to the movie.
I have to give the edge.
I like the score. I thought the score was very good too.
Yeah, the score is terrific. The music's by George Bassman and Eric Ziesel. I also would say if you like film noir and you've never read James and Cain, give it a chance. I think you'll really enjoy it. Yeah.
I think I liked it even more than Double Indemnity, which I also liked.
I love
and Mildred
Double
Pierce. I don't know about Mildred Pierce. Mildred Pierce is awfully good.
Joan Crawford, man.
But the book is, I mean, all those books are really, really good.
Really good.
But I liked this book a lot, but I do love this movie. It's so much better than I remember.
Yeah. I should also say that those other episodes are on our Patreon page. Just throwing it out there. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about what we're going to do next.
We spent a half an hour deciding this. We really
It was not an easy choice.
No. Once again, it's AAPI month. We wanted to honor creators of all kinds. And we're going through, once again, some of the books, Joy Luck Club, Crazy Rich Asians, there's some that were like, yeah, but then Memoirs of a Geisha. They're very long books. We just can't do a 500, 400, 500 page book right now. Maybe if we figure things out with the timing. But this next one, I forget how many pages it is, but it's like 200, I want to say.
It's a novella as well.
It's a novella,
so,
right. Sorry, it's shorter.
Yeah, so it won't be very long at all, I don't think.
And who are we covering? Did you write it down?
We are doing Raise the Red Lantern.
Okay.
Which I seem to remember came out in the 90s. I remember seeing it on the big screen, and it was very impressive. 1991 is the movie, and the novella... Well, when you find it now, it's called Raise the Red Lantern, but I think originally it was called Wives and Concubines, and it's from 1990 by Sue Tong, Sutong. And I'm looking forward to reading it and seeing this movie again.
And the movie is on Hulu, I think you said.
I believe so.
Yeah. That's going to be our next ones, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do after that. But if you know any great short stories that were turned into movies or something around the 200-page count, we would totally appreciate it. But anything, please
tell us about it.
But also, if you have other ideas for future episodes for any month, I mean, anytime, we're open to the ideas, to any ideas that you have. And follow us on all the things. And Margot, where can they find you?
You can find me online at coloniabook.com, and all of my social media callouts are at She's Nacho Mama. And where can they find you?
You can find me at Brooklyn Fit Chick for Twitter and Instagram. My site is brooklynfitchick.com. And we will be back soon with a new episode. Thank you so much for listening to the Book vs. Movie podcast. We are a part of the Frolic Podcast Network. You can find more podcasts you will love at frolic.media/podcasts. We follow the hashtags LadyPodSquad and Podern Family. If you want to support the show, you can go to our Patreon page, go to Patreon, and look for Book vs. Movie Podcast. We have a basic Facebook page, but we also have a private Facebook group. Go to Facebook and type in Book vs. Movie Podcast group if you want to join that. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Book vs. Movie. Spell all those words out. If you'd like to send us an email, it's Book vs. Movie Podcast, spelled it all out, at gmail.com. You can follow Margot D at Brooklyn Fit Chick on social media, and Margot P at She's Nacho Mama. Thanks so much again for checking out our show, and we'll be back soon with a new episode.